The ballot or the bullet, freedom or death. We gas ourselves up, but we short on breath. Talking about we eating, but who we really cooking. Dreaming about greens, but ain't nobody looking. No land, no acres, no seeds in the ground. When the hunger hits, who's gonna be around? We starving every day, and it just ain't the food. Feeding the hood garbage, got 'em acting a fool. We flossing with rides, stunting with chains, but these bars we spitting just bring more pain. We guilty as hell, preaching all these lies, selling debt to the kids, and we acting surprised. We commercialize the pain, broadcast the grief, tell the youth to hustle, but hide the beef. We glorify the trap, invite them to the flames, just like Reagan brought the crack on planes. Back in the 80s when the streets got soaked, my people, my brothers, all got choked. Reagan said no trades, but we know the deal. He left us in the dirt, man, that shit was real. I was just a shorty watching it unfold, old enough to see how we got sold. War on drugs, but it was war on us. Cops on our necks, no love, no trust. They labeled us thugs, beast on the block, made us kiss the pavement while they cleaned our clock. Prison became business thanks to Reagan's game. Free labor is the truth in America's name. Slavery's dead, man. That's just a word. Read the 13th Amendment, it's still absurd. They lock us in cages, serving time for life. Double digits for wisdom, cutting sharp like a knife. I'm here to say, the chains in the air, it's time we break free, start showing we care. No more flexing for nothing, no more selling out. It's time to rise. Good morning, 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 and welcome to the Urban Conservative. Today it is When Justice Sleeps, Violence Wakes, the crisis of gunfire in political science. But I want to start this morning, and I know I usually do music, but I want to get into, there's a work study group that is going on with, I don't think I did this, with Senate, and I want to play that for a little bit. So I'm going to start it. They've already gone, I think, about like 30 minutes or whatever. So I want to play it.
If you would come forward and sit on the two end chairs there, Senator Muhammad will sit in the middle. Senator Muhammad, did you want to start with a brief description of your proposal, and then we'll hear from the testifiers?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair Latz and members of the Senate Working Group on Gun Violence and Prevention for the opportunity to speak with you today. I come before you in the wake of a summer marked by tragedy, by senseless gun violence and tragedy, not only here in Minnesota, but across our nation. Each tragedy underscored a painful truth. Weapons designed for war, built solely to take human life, have no place in our neighborhoods, schools, or public spaces. Because of our gun violence epidemic, children can no longer learn freely in their classrooms, families cannot worship safely in their houses of faith, and Minnesotans cannot walk our streets without fearing the unthinkable. Today, I'm presenting a bill to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines in Minnesota. This legislation addresses a narrow but deadly category of firearms that have repeatedly been used in mass shootings and amplifying devastation and death in seconds. By restricting access to these firearms, we can make meaningful progress in reducing gun violence and saving lives. I will briefly walk through the bill, Mr. Chair. Starting August 1st, 2026, this bill makes it illegal to make, import, sell, or own or possess the following guns: large capacity magazines, those that hold more than 10 rounds, .50 caliber or larger firearms, semi-automatic military-style assault weapons, also known as SEMSAWs, and undetectable firearms, those that can't be picked up by metal detectors. The bill also makes exceptions for certain groups to possess these guns if they're doing their job. Police officers, members of law enforcement, members of the U.S. military, and licensed firearm manufacturers and dealers, only if they are selling them to law enforcement and military. Registering it, the bill also makes it required for folks to register these guns with the BCA starting January 1st, 2027. And if they are going to keep it, they have to notify their local law enforcement, renew their registration every 3 years, and store it securely. These guns can't be sold or transferred. And if folks don't want to keep them anymore and they currently legally own it, they have to turn it over to the BCA for it to be destroyed. The bill also, this also applies to folks who inherit these types of guns. There are some penalties associated with this piece of legislation. 5-year felony. It can carry up to a felony, up to 5 years in prison, $25,000 or both. And the BCA may charge a registration fee as well. Members, in the lead up to today's hearing, I've heard from constituents who told me how gun violence has affected their lives. A special education teacher who quit that job out of stress. A doctor who treats teenagers with anxiety because they are afraid of a classmate. A Minneapolis public schools teacher who talked about the disabling effect of shooting drills and said, and I quote, we cannot learn or teach after we have played this sick game of imagination. I've also heard from parents who live in fear. And today you will hear from parents whose fears have come true. They are demanding, like so many Minnesotans, that this legislation is not only necessary but urgent. And I want to acknowledge that their stories may be difficult to hear, but they are essential in grounding this debate in lived experience. I look forward to a respectful and constructive conversation, and I believe that if eventually passed, this legislation will save lives and move Minnesota one step closer to the Minnesota that our families and communities deserve. And Mr. Chair, we can get into testimony.
Thank you. Just so we have an idea of the time parameter here, we've allocated 15 minutes or so for this particular presentation. And the testifiers are going to be able to, for the group of parents, I should say. We have 5 parents identified who will be testifying. So, however you all decided to split that time up is up to you. Did I say Malia Kimbrell? Did I say it properly?
You did.
All right. Welcome to the Senate here.
Thank you.
Go ahead with your testimony.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Malia Kimbrell. I am a nurse, wife, Minneapolis resident, and mother of 2. My daughter Vivian is a 3rd grader at Annunciation Catholic School. She was injured in the recent mass shooting where 8-year-old Fletcher and 10-year-old Harper were killed when 116 bullets blew through the stained glass windows in 2 terrifying minutes. I continue to do daily dressing changes on several bullet wounds on Vivi's back and arm. Can you even imagine cleansing bullet wounds on your 9-year-old that they suffered while sitting in church? Her bullet wounds will eventually become scars, but the shrapnel embedded inside her will stay with her forever. And the same is true for the emotional trauma she suffered. Our entire community is suffering, but we haven't lost hope. I have a lot to say, but my time here is limited, so I'll cut to the chase. Undoubtedly, there will be another mass shooting, and more kids will die. If you think it won't hit your community and someone you love, think again. It is up to our lawmakers to decide what type of weapon the next mass shooter is armed with. You have that power, and with power comes responsibility. You have a responsibility to keep our kids as safe as possible. Any lawmaker who chooses not to support legislation banning semi-automatic, military-style assault weapons and large-capacity magazines is personally signaling to every child in the state of Minnesota that their safety doesn't matter enough. When the next mass shooting happens, who will be able to say that they at least tried to minimize the lives lost? This is one thing that can be done, one tangible step, one meaningful change, one attempt at keeping our kids safe. I am not naive enough to think that this will solve the problem entirely. There is more that we can do, and we should exhaust all of our options. But doing nothing is not an option. This legislation is what can be done soon, so make it happen. Taking action is our only hope. Our kids deserve to have their safety prioritized above all else. And if you stand in the way of that, shame on you. If you think it's acceptable that kids' lives are sacrificed while semi-automatic rifles can continue to exist here, shame on you. There is a risk and benefit to every decision. Saving kids' lives is the ultimate benefit that outweighs any possible risk. I would do anything to save my child's life. Wouldn't you do the same for yours? If there was a person shooting into a crowded room where your child was innocently sitting, how can you be comfortable with the shooter having easy access to legally buy an AR-15 capable of firing off more than 100 bullets a minute? What if the best option available was a Remington hunting rifle that fires less than 10 bullets a minute? Which option gives your child a greater likelihood of survival? Which option would save countless lives? You have the power to decide what the next mass shooter will or will not be armed with. You have the power to make a difference and have a positive impact on the safety of our kids. I beg you, take responsibility and don't let this opportunity pass you by. Our kids deserve a future filled with hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kimbrell. Ms. Damon, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, thank you. Chair Latz, my name is Megan Damon, and I am the mother of 2 Annunciation Catholic School students. They're here today. On August 27th, my children and others were under rapid gunfire for 2.5 minutes. 120 bullets shattered stained glass, ricocheted off pews, and tore into flesh. Fear, death, and destruction followed. All of this was preventable. Children describe how the bullets rained down. The ongoing grief, confusion, disruption, and trauma is our reality. All of this was preventable. Yesterday, I attended the memorial and celebration of life for Harper Moisky, 10. We committed to carry Harper's light forward. Last Sunday, I attended the funeral of Fletcher Merkel, 8. We committed to keeping Fletcher's exuberant energy going. All of this was preventable. I stand in full support of Senator Mohammed's proposal to ban assault weapons. My family is a hunting family. This is not about hunting weapons. This is about assault weapons, which have no place in civilian life. I am a nurse specializing in health promotion and disease prevention for both populations and systems. I see gun violence as a public health crisis. Every day in the U.S., more than 200 people are killed or injured by firearms. All of this is preventable. I urge you to support Senator Mohammed's proposal and to encourage your colleagues in the Senate to vote in its favor when the time comes. We can follow the lead of the 11 states that already banned assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. These states have demonstrated dramatic reduction in injuries and deaths after their bans. We can look to other nations for evidence, for example, Australia, where mass shootings have been eradicated since their ban of assault weapons. There's researchers, Lundberg and colleagues, has a seminal study that statistically analyzed mass shootings in the United States before and after our federal assault weapon ban. Unsurprisingly and unrefusably, there's a reduction in death and injury. The research is clear. Banning assault weapons prevents deaths. No single policy will solve all gun violence, but this step will save lives and protect our children. This ban would have prevented those 120 bullets from raining down on the people assembled at Annunciation Church. Together, we can prevent gun deaths in Minnesota and provide us all a future filled with hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Damon. If you would please now return to your seats, and we will invite Carla Maldonado and Brittany Haig forward. Ms. Maldonado, go ahead and.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the working group, my name is Carla Maldonado, and I'm the mother of 2 children who survived the shooting at Annunciation Catholic School on August 27th. thank you for convening this working group and giving me the chance to speak today. Almost 3 weeks ago, my children were at their weekly school mass, praying in a sacred space, when a gunman opened fire on them. 2 innocent children, Harper Moisky and Fletcher Merkel, were killed, just 10 and 8 years old. The morning of August 27th began like any other. I walked my kids the 2 blocks to school, kissed them goodbye, and walked home. Minutes later, my husband and I heard gunshots from our kitchen. My husband knew immediately what they were. I didn't want to believe it. Not here, not in our neighborhood. But then the second round of shots rang out. My husband said, "Those gunshots are at the school." I ran toward the school. My heart pounded in the pit of my stomach. My mind was flooded with images of my children shot and lying dead in their own pool of blood. I experienced a level of fear and horror I never knew existed. My husband was at the front of the church. He found our 7-year-old, but the relief was brief. He said, "I still don't have Pablo." That's our 11-year-old son. The moments that passed next felt like an eternity. Eventually, Pablo did leave the back of the church through broken glass doors. He was among the group that had sheltered in the basement. My children were among the lucky ones. We got to hug them after school that day. But they are not the same kids that I dropped off that morning. They have nightmares. They flinch at loud noises. They don't want to be alone. They scream for me with a panic in their voices that makes my heart hurt. They ask questions now, like, why does the shooter want to hurt us? As a trauma therapist, I'm well aware of the research of the impacts of trauma on the lives of the individuals who suffered. We are now living that. But you don't need data. You don't need research. What you need to do is to look into the eyes of my 7-year-old at night. And she looks at me and tells me she can't go to sleep because she's afraid there's a shooter in the house. This is our family's new reality. And this is a reality that so many of the families in our Annunciation community are suffering. The truth is, none of us will be the same after this. And I truly hope this can move us forward together, because that is what we need right now for our children. No matter who you are, what community you're from, how much money you make, who you voted for, who you prayed to, or if you pray at all, we want the same thing. We want our children to come home safe from school. I implore you, ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. There's one thing that kept more kids from dying on August 27th, and it wasn't a law or a policy. It was church pews. This is not safety for our children. This is not protection for our communities. This is survival by chance. And our children deserve better than this. Do not wait for another child to die. Do not wait for another mother to be sitting here again, telling you their story of fear, sorrow, and grief. Because the mothers, we will keep coming. We will keep speaking until our children are safe and until they can rest their heads safely at night. Because they know they live in a country full of good people who care about their lives. And they will know this not by the words you speak, but by the actions you take to protect them. Thank you for this opportunity, and for listening, and for acting with the urgency this crisis demands. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maldonado. Ms. Haig.
I want to stop it there for one minute, right? And this is my thing about it, that it is, right? And I can't take any of these legislators very honestly serious, right? It's been a bad year for Minnesota when it comes to gun violence. No matter if it was people that were lawmakers, it doesn't matter if it was over drugs, doesn't matter if it was a school shooting. We've had a really bad year. And it's like, but this isn't the first time. And I don't want to be not sympathetic or empathetic or any of that. Bless up. But my thing of it is of like, we have this shit happen all the time. My nephews, and I don't want to bring my family into this, but my family has been a part of houses that were shot up in drive-bys. But by not, one was by another nigga, but the other time it was by a white boy. So if my nephews didn't move from where they were sitting, they wouldn't be here right now. But the man that did that is out walking the streets, Joseph Cunningham. Like, I don't get that. So, like, my thing of it is, like, shit has happened. Like, and I don't want to be mean about it, but niggas die every day, B. Doesn't matter if it's kids. And we don't do shit about it. I'm going to be honest when it comes to fentanyl, when it comes to gun violence. But it seems like when things hit a certain area, depending on your class, depending on your wealth, that's when people care. Why doesn't people care when you had 2 people that have been found guilty this year, Abdul Wright and the other white boy, of molesting kids over North Minneapolis in the public schools for years? But it was in a black neighborhood. Y'all don't give a fuck. Y'all don't care. How many people have woke up or gone to bed and been asleep and woke up because of gunfire? Either because it struck your housing, it struck your property, or you heard it. So it's like I really feel bad. I really do feel fucked up when it comes to these parents. We were watching it this morning, and I don't want to bring Ashley into this, but she was crying listening to some of these stories. And I'm like, why are you crying? But I get it. When you hear, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about Ashley, because she's been in a lot of places that a lot of white people wouldn't go. I'm going to be honest. They wouldn't be hanging out on 36th and Penn in the middle of the night in so-called impoverished area if they didn't feel safe. Jennifer, Melissa, come on now, man. Let's be serious. A lot of these people have Negrophobia. Not talking about none of the white people I just named. I don't mean nothing of that sort. But you can tell how some white people act and others how they act. And that's just real shit. I think I've experienced that so much in the last 5 years because, oh, well, what about him? That doesn't mean y'all just like him because he's an uppity ass nigga. Nothing bad against anybody. Are they a token? But that's all they're used for. And then when people use them, when they get done using that, they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about y'all. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I'm going to tell you right now is that going through Red Wing and working on that resolution of proclaiming racism a public health crisis, what did it help? I don't honestly feel like it helped anything. I'm going to be honest here. Even when it came to the rental codes, even when it came to the strategic racial equity action plan, it's like they always are trying to get the black people out of it so they can put the whites in it. I'm going to be straight up. Or they get black people that look like us, but they don't know shit about us because they don't live that life. They don't know the struggle it is to see where you're going to get your next meal. Y'all ain't never had to do that shit. Y'all ain't never went in the kitchen and made a wish me sandwich, wishing you had some motherfucking cheese or some meat between that shit. Y'all ain't never had to do that. How many, you know what the crazy thing of it is? You can even tell where the white kind of poorness is in the rural areas and then the urban area when it comes to them, because they don't, man, these people out here, I don't mean nothing bad, but some of them don't like noodles. They don't even, a lot of people, they eat like the weird shit that we would never eat. You know, spam. I don't know how many times are the, what's that other shit? I think it smelled like dog food, cat food, whatever. Corned beef hash. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that black people don't eat that, but that wasn't something that, in my eyes, that was a delicacy. Shit like that. And then a lot of people, they don't understand that. So when you go to another area that they say, oh, that's bad. But then look at the poor people that they say are poor, and what do they eat? Let's be honest here, because there's a difference. Shit, Ashley never seen her first fucking cockroach till fucking Red Wing. Like, come on. It's like people are crazy as hell. Like we were this morning, there was a on the news. I mean, I don't know, maybe it was a commercial or whatever on Today's Show, whatever. They were, because she watches that shit in the morning. But they had something on there about spinach, and she's like, ugh. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? All that is the black person's collard greens. Like, what do you mean? I don't get that. It's the same shit. So if you like, if she loves collard greens, it's the fact that she didn't have spinach like that growing up. It's just basically the same thing. Same thing with kale. It's just, I don't get it. But it makes me mad. Like, people only come out when something bad happens, but they're never trying to prevent it. And I don't understand that, because just yesterday on a Sunday morning, we had 2 deaths in Minneapolis. 2. One over north and one over south. And the one over north could have really been prevented if MPD would do their jobs of, when you have a domestic violence situation, you want to take it all serious when it's a white person, but never take it serious when it's a black woman. And I don't understand that. I really don't understand that. And it's sad to me. And I know some people will say, well, she decided to go back or blah, blah, blah. What do you mean? That's not a reason to take somebody's life, because here's the thing of it is, and I get it, she loved him, the person. I'll just say, I've seen it where they can't get rid of it. I don't know how many people have seen this growing up, that literally, that they used to see their parents, or I shouldn't even say parents, but their mother, go through some shit, and you're like, you have to sit back and wonder, like, what the fuck what's she doing? Well, but that's what they thought was love, and it's a fucked up way, but that's what a lot of families seen in the 80s, the 90s, the 70s. But then as we got into these new Generation X babies, they never seen shit like that. They couldn't survive without the shit that we have nowadays. When I grew up, we didn't have cell phones. I had a pager. If motherfucker wanted to get a hold of me, they paged me, and then I had to go find a motherfucking payphone, or I was either at somebody's crib, like, come on, or school or whatever, we decided to go find a payphone. Like, come on. We never had none of that shit. We didn't have the tablets. the Chromebooks. And you know what the crazy thing is? My mom and them probably had, when they were going to school, the little, and I'm sure people that play with this, if you're in the 40 year or I'll say the 30s, is that we had that. Now you can find them in hospitals when you go or whatever for the kids to do. They got that little. There's so many red. I don't know. Never mind it. But you know what I'm saying. Maybe you don't. But let me get back into this because I did really feel like a lot of this that was said this morning is gonna make people look in another direction. You're gonna see a lot of division when it comes down to this, and it's sad because it should be about the kids. What's best for the kids, not what's best for the adults. And I'm gonna be honest right now. It should be what's best for kids, not what's best for adults, because that's what we're talking about right now. And I want people to take this serious, even Republicans, because I'm talking to you. Let's think about the kids. And I'm not saying that this fucking confuses me a lot, because number one, I'm not a person that was really heavily into guns. I've shot guns, I've shot shotguns. I'm not really a hunter. I don't like deer meat or venison or whatever. I don't like shit like that. I don't like raccoon, or I'll eat rabbit occasionally. I haven't had it in a long time, but I'm not a hunting person. I'm not a fish a little bit, but never was a hunting type of person. So I'm not going to sit here and say what an adult, but any should or shouldn't do. But what I will say is that nobody on the streets, even when it comes down to our military, because if we can't have military style guns while the military is able to have them, no, I don't believe in that. I don't believe that our government should be outgunning the citizens, because to me, that's where you have a government that wants control, right? When you're sitting here telling people that you can have guns, but you can't have this type, I really honestly believe you're infringing on Second Amendment rights right here. Because if the military can have tanks, if they can have drones, if they can have assault rifles, I think for protection, residents should be able to too, as well. Because what do we see right now is that you see militaries, National Guard, and I'm gonna call that the military, coming into cities and doing things that, in my eyes, they shouldn't be doing. Because that comes back to the community. We should be protecting our people. We should be out here making sure, not worrying, not sitting here begging or coming up with and it is a sad tragedy, and try to make legislation from it. Because how many other tragedies have happened in Minnesota and in Minneapolis, and we haven't done shit? We use it as sound bites. Like, I'm dead ass fucking serious right now. It's the same thing with Charlie Kirk. There's a lot. I don't give a fuck about that nigga. Listen, I didn't even listen to the nigga, but he didn't deserve to die over his opinion. But I'm going to tell you right now is that these people automatically know that something was going to happen, because if you got security around you, you're either saying something that a lot of people don't believe in, and you don't know how to defend your fucking self. That's what I'm going to be honest right now, because I've seen a lot of cowardly bitch ass shit in the last couple of days from lawmakers on both sides of the motherfucking field, Democrats and Republicans. And in my eyes, a lot of these are some bitch ass niggas, because they wouldn't come to certain areas. You bring me a Walter Hudson and have him walk over north with no motherfucking weapon, the nigga's not doing it. You get any of them motherfucking lawmakers to walk all the way from Penn and what is that? Osa Memorial, all the way down to what's that? To 37th. I want to see a motherfucking lawmaker do that. You walking through the lows and the highs, and see if you're not a motherfucking target, because I guarantee it, you will be. And people don't, that's what I don't even understand that. So you tell me, Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it right there because that's gonna piss me off, and it already does, and it's sad. It's really sad. Is that there's a lot of people that are lawmakers that they will never in their motherfucking life walk in a certain neighborhood because they don't believe in that not in my backyard shit. Because they won't walk over North Minneapolis. They go to Twins games or they go to the Vikings or the Timberwolves, Gophers. You don't, or Uptown, you don't see them going over north. That's why I think it is so fucked up. And I see what they're doing. They're trying to put swank in there. But I hope also is that black people are watching. I hope they're watching because I'm going to tell you right now is that you're being bamboozled in the name of we want to make Minneapolis better, but yet they're doing gentrification instead of making areas better, in which it probably will be better because that's the only reason, because they're making it more prettier for people that don't live there, but for people that are coming to live there or coming to go to games or coming to go shopping. It has nothing to do about, oh, we're going to make North Minneapolis or even Lake Street. It has nothing to do about that because that doesn't make money. It doesn't make money. And people do not understand it. If it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. And I don't know how many times I heard that when I had that resolution. If it doesn't, Dean Hope told me that. If it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. And so, would you do that? If you were a lawmaker, if you would spend all that money and it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. They're not going to do that because in their eyes, it doesn't make sense. But in the people's eyes, it does make sense because we lived through this shit, not them, not Evan Brown, not Becky Norton, not Michelle Lizey. They live in a fucking fairy tale world where they think that the only shit that they have to worry about is motherfuckers talking about liberties or Hanish Bakery or the little shit that happens at the school or the little shit that their police department does. And people who aren't afraid of Uncle Sam. They know they've been wrong, so they fight it. But then what does Red Wing do? They sweep it under the rug. Oh, just like when I brought up to the city council that they had blood on their hands when it came to Shaquita Hurd. And they couldn't understand why I said that. I said because you have a $10,000 payment that came from the city of Red Wing that included into her, even though it was insurance that came down to it, that paid for that. You also, Red Wing, the city of Red Wing had to pay $10,000. That's what a lot of people don't like to talk about. So when the city council said, oh, we weren't a part of that, you were. It not only was it the police department, but you signed off on it. You signed off on the lawsuit. So don't sit here and tell me that a lot of y'all didn't know. Because you did. It didn't matter if it came to Becker. It didn't matter if it came to Dean Hove. Kim Bizey, didn't matter because they were there. They signed. I'm not going to say they signed. They voted on the payment. And a lot of people didn't know about it because it's in their consent, whatever, where they just vote on this shit unless somebody from either a council member or somebody from the public wants to talk about it. It all gets voted at all at the same time. And a lot of people don't know that. So when I pointed that out, they couldn't say shit. But then you know how Dean Hope came back to me? If it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. So I understood it. I understood it. So fighting for Black and making sure that we have equality and making sure that we're not going up against systemic racism. It doesn't make money, so it doesn't make sense to them. Why would they try to fix something that doesn't make any sense to them? Why? Becky Norton can't walk through downtown Red Wing and people look at her a certain way because they don't. She's white. But now when black people do it, just like they look at them with fear. They look at them like something is going to happen, even though nothing will probably happen. It's because they don't understand it. It's the same thing when it comes down to trans, it comes down to all this shit. Because I just thought about this, right? While they're talking about all this gun measures, I want you to know that they're also talking about this trans shit, this conversion therapy and whatever. Because I will tell you right now is that a lot of people thought that was a good idea, but it ended up, it's not. Because you actually put the therapist's hands in handcuffs. And they didn't have no control because they couldn't come to a therapist and talk about their gender, especially if they had gender issues. And I don't, you know what? There's probably a lot of things that people go through that I will never understand. And that's fine. But I want to learn so that I can understand. It doesn't mean that I want to go out here and make sure that you're written into a constitution or make an amendment to that constitution when it's already written in it. It's just that you want to feel, it's that ego. You want people to like you. It's not this, you're okay being with who you are. No, it's not nothing about that. It's that you want people to feel that you like them. And no, it shouldn't be like that. That's not, listen, I'm not here to judge nobody. I don't care if you call yourself a Furby. I don't care if you call yourself a fucking toaster. We shouldn't be writing laws for you. I'm going to be honest. And I really do. This is where me and Charlie Kirk did agree on, right? Is when it came down to the Civil Rights Bill. I think for the LGBTQ community, I think for like Furbies and that shit, for trans, it was a dream. But for everybody, for actually Black Americans, American Blacks, it's been a nightmare. The whole DEI. Because I will tell you right now, we've seen a lot of people that didn't earn it. That did not earn it. Because I can tell you right now, how many stories in Minnesota, it's not Minneapolis, how many stories in Minnesota and poverty-stricken areas that their education is shitty. I can tell you right now, all over stories in Minnesota of people with their kids have been pushed on when you have parents that are fighting for their kids. And because people won't listen, they don't want to do anything about it. You have kids running around here, 4th or 5th graders, that cannot read. That can't read. But so why are they in 4th grade? Because no child left behind. No child left behind. They didn't care about that he should have to be that at that reading level. They weren't trying to help them get there. See, that's what people, they're on an IEP or 504. Man, listen, if you don't fight for your child, nobody will. Nobody will. And I don't know how many times I've said that. People say that they should homeschool their kids. I don't believe in that because I believe in my eyes, there's a lot of parents don't have the capabilities to homeschool. They just don't, because I will tell you right now, you can't control your kids not in school. How the fuck you going to control your kids while you teaching them? And I'm just being honest. So why not bring them to school and make sure that they have the resources that they need to succeed? And that's what a lot of parents don't do because they're so caught up in their own lives. I'm not talking about anybody in general. Specific. I'm talking in general. I'm talking in general because that's where I don't know how many families I see like that, where you have adults that can't write a check, can't write in cursive, can't read it. We have people have driver's license that don't know how to fucking speak English. But so how are they going to read it? But yet, in Minnesota, we welcome all, in which I have nothing against it because we should be a welcoming state. But that doesn't mean you get the same privileges or the same rights as an American when our ancestors have fought to be where we are and to see other people come into our country and taking over, and especially for like white women, but taking over DEI or, this Black African, this Pan-Africanism shit. Because I'll tell you right now, I'm not a Pan-African. I don't believe in the unity in Black diasporas. I don't give a fuck. I want people that are Somalian, Nigerian, Ethiopian, Jamaican they're Jamaican Black. They're Somalian Black, because we're American Black. And we should be looking after Americans first before we're looking at other entities.
Good morning, co-chairs Latz and Mohammed, members of the working group. My name is Brittany Haig. I'm an educator and mother of 3. I'm here as a parent whose children survived a school shooting, and as a citizen who believes no child should ever live through the terror mine did. August 27th started like any other back-to-school day, chaotic, exciting, full of the thrill of something new. My youngest, David, only 6 years old, let me lace up his new black and red sneakers for the 3rd day of first grade and headed to school with his older brother and sister. Then our world shattered. David was shot at the first school mass of the year. His spleen was lacerated, shrapnel scattered through his left side. Bullets grazed the back of his head. He was rushed to Hennepin County Medical Center alongside the middle schoolers who protected him and his classmates. The quick response saved his life. But even as his wounds heal, he carries terror he has no words for. So do I. Annunciation is one in a long line of school shootings, a tragedy made more infuriating by the preventability of it. Other countries, Australia, Canada, Japan, New Zealand, the UK, faced mass shootings and changed laws. Here, our children continue to die because our laws treat guns as more important than human life. We cannot accept our children's lives as the price of inaction. No gun is more important than a child in a school. No gun is more important than a family at church. No gun is more important than any human life. I strongly support measures being proposed today, including prohibiting assault weapons and high-capacity magazines like the ones used in the Annunciation shooting, safe storage requirements, restrictions on ghost guns and binary triggers, repeal of state preemption of local firearms laws, public awareness campaigns for extreme risk protection orders, and the establishment of an Office of Gun Violence Prevention under the Department of Health. David wrote to leaders himself. He said it more simply. I got glass in my head. My buddy got hurt and I think he was bleeding on his head. My body has a scar from getting hurt. I went to the hospital. People shouldn't buy guns, and I think we should get rid of them. Guns are mean and harmful. Proposals that fail to address access to weapons are band-aids at best. Hardening schools is not the answer. Locking down schools further, putting SROs in more schools, arming teachers would not have prevented my son's injuries. Bulletproof glass covering our stained glass is a visible admission of defeat in the face of incomprehensible, preventable violence. These kids knew what to do. They did the drills. They followed the procedures. It didn't save them. Our children should not have to live and grow in fear to protect people who value guns more than human lives. Our children should not have to live in fear because adults don't have the moral courage to do what's right. I've been asked countless times in the last 3 weeks how David is doing. Physically, he's well, but that's only part of the truth. The truth is he's angry, he's scared, and he's confused. So am I. My son survived. That's not true for every family in my community, and I'm here because that survival is not without cost. It's time for a special session before another community feels the impact of this crisis. The time to choose life is now. The time to act is now. Our children cannot wait.
Thank you, Ms. Haig. If you two testifiers would please return to your seats. We have one more parent to testify. It's Brock Safe. And then if Becca Dryden could also come forward at this time. While they are approaching, I think I will be able to speak on behalf of all of the committee, that to the parents especially that are here and those who were on site or responded on site to Annunciation. Thank you for your courage, and our hearts go out to you and your families. We're very grateful that you came here today to share your stories and your strength, and we wish your families well. Mr. Safe.
My name is Brock Safe. I am the father of two Annunciation Catholic school students, Estella in 8th grade and Astoria in 5th grade. Both girls have attended Annunciation since preschool, and we have been in the Annunciation community for almost a decade. On the day of the shooting, both of my daughters were seated on the left side of the church. My 8th grader Estella was thankfully unhurt physically, but several of her friends to her left and right were shot directly, including one of her best friends who only last week was released from the hospital. It is a miracle my 5th grader Astoria is still with us today. She was located next to one of the windows where the pathetic coward carelessly shot dozens of military-grade AR-15 bullets through the stained glass windows of the church. Astoria was grazed by a bullet in the forehead and another on the right side of her neck. In addition to this, she has multiple bullet fragments lodged in her head, which will most likely be there for the rest of her life. Astoria was literally praying next to one of her best friends who was murdered in cold blood by this monster. This heartbreaking tragedy is something Astoria is still struggling to understand and will most likely for the rest of her life. My 10-year-old daughter, along with many others, are left to cope with horrific images that only seasoned combat veterans experience on the battlefield. And again, they were praying in a school church when this happened. What our children and teachers endured is unimaginable, a devastating consequence of a nation that continues to prioritize their love of guns over the safety and lives of our children. This is why I'm here. What happened on August 27th cannot be erased. It must stand for something. This must serve as a catalyst for meaningful change. It is our responsibility to break the cycle and ensure it does not continue to repeat as it has for so damn long. We cannot continue to live in a society where a deeply troubled individual can walk into a gun store and buy assault-style weapons, these machines that have no rightful place outside of a war zone. Yet this monster was able to legally acquire an AR-15, which he then used to unleash 116 rounds in just 120 seconds, tearing through a church filled with terrified children and staff. I personally do not own guns, but that does not mean I'm anti-gun. I completely understand the want for it for protection and for hunting. What I don't understand is why high-capacity semi-automatic rifles, bump stocks, and extended magazines continue to be legally and easily accessible. We urgently need stronger restrictions and sensible reform to our gun laws to ban these type of weapons. We need to make it as hard as humanly possible for these type of monsters to hurt our kids. Nothing will bring back Harper and Fletcher, our sweet children who were taken from us. And we cannot undo the heartbreak and tragedy that unfolded at Annunciation on that devastating day. However, we have a solemn responsibility and a moral obligation to fight for children across America to ensure that no other child faces the same fate. We cannot and we must not fail them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Safe. And while Ms. Dryden is testifying, if Dr. Rachel Payne could come forward. Thank you. Ms. Dryden.
Co-chairs Latz and Mohammed and members of the working group, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Becca Dryden. I live in Minneapolis in Senator Mohammed's district, and I'm here in support of common sense gun safety legislation, including a ban on assault rifles and high-capacity magazines. This is not the first time my community has been devastated by a mass school shooting, and it's not the first time I've spoken out in hopes of preventing the next one. In March 2023, my family was living in Nashville, Tennessee, when a shooter, armed with an AR-style rifle, walked into a local private elementary school and murdered 3 children and 3 adults. Those children were 8 years old, the same age as my son at the time. In the days that followed, thousands of us rallied at the state capitol pleading with our elected officials to lead with courage. But they didn't. Instead, they chose to stand with gun lobbyists. Not one meaningful policy passed, neither during the special session nor the regular session that followed, despite months of persistent, vocal demands from grieving, terrified community members. My family, like many others in Tennessee, left Tennessee, including someone I just spoke to earlier. We no longer felt safe in a state that prioritized the interests of gun lobbyists over the lives of our children. Now, in 2025, I live just a mile and a half from Annunciation Church, where 2 children, the same ages as mine currently, were gunned down with an AR-style rifle as their classmates and community members prayed. It is a uniquely American experience to live through mass shootings in 2 different communities. But here in Minnesota, we have a chance to do something Tennessee did not. We can set an example for the rest of the country by showing that protecting our children matters more than appeasing the powerful gun lobbies. Tennessee became a testing ground for some of the most dangerous, radical ideas coming out of today's political climate. After the Covenant shooting, nothing meaningfully changed. Children were made to watch gun safety videos in kindergarten, while adults face no consequences for leaving unsecured firearms in their cars. The refusal to act wasn't just a failure of leadership, it was a national embarrassment. I came to Minnesota for a safer, more connected community, and I still believe we can be that. I urge this working group to guide the legislature toward meaningful, evidence-based gun safety laws that reflect the will of the people and offer a real hope to families still reeling from tragedy. Minnesota has an opportunity to lead, to model what it looks like when lawmakers prioritize public safety over political influence. We can offer the nation a glimpse of what's possible when elected officials lead with both heart and reason. We can be the spark that moves this country forward so that children like Harper and Fletcher won't have died in vain. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Dryden. And while Dr. Payne is testifying, would Dr. Rachel Weigert please come forward? Dr. Payne.
I just want to stop this for a minute because, I think this is political, and not to talk shit about or disrespect the Covenant shooting, school shooting, or the Annunciation and shooting in Minneapolis. But these are political. They're making it political because of these tragedies. They're making it political. I don't understand that. It's like when these tragedies, because a mass shooting just happened the day before that. The day before that, a mass shooting happened. Not only, I think it wasn't even that far from that. I think it was like half a mile. Nobody, they're not talking about that. They're not talking about what happened yesterday, even though they're doing this today, but it's all about enunciation. It's about a school. It's not about the mass shootings that happen in train stations, things, or bus, whatever the fuck they call them, bus stations. They're not talking about that. They're not talking about all the when people like the street racings, and they're not talking about Vanessa. They're not talking about Anaya. They're not talking about Trinity. They're not talking about and Terrell Mays. They're not talking about those bodies. They're not talking about that kind of justice because we haven't changed shit since we lost all those lives over North Minneapolis. But now that white people it's starting to happen to them, now we have to change. Why? When we've been already begging. That's why I'll say this. You had a Somalian woman in Zanab Muhammad and white people that obviously this is the thing of it is they move thinking that it's never going to happen, but then it happens. It happened in Nashville and now Minneapolis. The lady that was just speaking, she moved to Minnesota because of what happened in Nashville. So now when this session comes and nothing happens, are you going to move again? Because that's what a lot of people are going to do. They're going to move. Nobody's going to really stay here and fight. They're not going to fight. They're going to move. But we don't have that option. We can't just get up and move. We have to fight. There's some people in Minnesota that cannot get up and just move. They don't have that kind of life. They don't have that kind of job. So I don't get why. That's because they're stakeholders. They're owners. They own their house. They probably own their own business. Their job probably pays $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year. They're not wondering where their next meal is going to come from. And they're asking the government to protect our babies, not them. You're not going up here and that's what really pisses me off is because so many people beg our government, but won't stand up for themselves. That's why, I don't go to city council meeting. I do my behind the scenes work. I work on amendments, and I hope they do call a special session. I hope they do. So then when nothing happens, you're going to see it only happened once, but also again. Because people don't think they're going to see another uprising like they did with George Floyd. But you are. If these people try to pass banning assault rifles and high capacity magazines and all that, and you try to tell me you do not think that a war or something is going to happen, it's going to happen. And what are people going to do? They're not, well, where's the government? Who's going to help us? Nobody's coming to save us but us. So if you can't fight for yourself, if you don't know how to use your hands, a lot of these niggas are going to be misled. There's going to be a lot of death because people are misled. Not that you've seen people standing up for something, as you had people standing up for anything. Not for something, for anything.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Thank you for this opportunity to speak in support of legislation to prevent gun violence. My name is Dr. Rachel Payne, and I am a trauma surgeon and the Associate Trauma Medical Director at Hennepin County Medical Center, Minnesota's largest and busiest trauma center, where I've spent the last decade caring for injured patients from all over the state. Among those injuries are hundreds of victims of gun violence. I've responded to many mass casualty incidents, most recently 2 of them within 24 hours of each other this month, both for mass shootings. On the morning of the Annunciation shooting, I had already been at work on trauma call for about 27 hours, during which I'd cared for mass shootings victims from South Minneapolis from the afternoon before. I'd spent the day and night operating on patients with life-threatening injuries in their chest and abdomen, providing critical care for others with life-altering facial and extremity injuries. Overnight, patients continued to be injured by guns, including one we were unable to save, despite heroic measures including opening his chest, trying to make his heart beat and stop the bleeding, while my emergency department colleagues poured blood into him. But he was already gone. Before I could even begin to process that 24 hours and the first mass shooting, another mass casualty alert sounded. I headed straight to the emergency.
People are still here. God damn. Yeah, I lost. I don't know what happened. It's raining. We had thunder and this shit. So, man, I'm just glad people are still here. I want to get back into Dr. Payne.
And I quickly determined who needed the operating room the most critically, and a couple of my partners began operating on some children that had been shot in the torso. All of their vital organs, bullets ricochet within the body. Some of the larger ammo can disperse into dozens of metal fragments on impact and scatter within the body cavity. They enter their target with such heat and force that they create blast injury in their wake far beyond the holes we can easily see from the bullet, which is why we have to carefully scrutinize every organ and blood vessel, and why the damage from gunshot wounds is so uniquely devastating and can sometimes not be repaired even when they get to us in time. Partners worked, I went to the control desk at the operating room to help coordinate remaining surgeons, operating rooms, and operating room staff to ensure that we could treat every child with the urgency and expertise they deserved. I evaluated every single child that came through our operating room that day as they came by the desk. I am haunted by the looks in their eyes. The looks of horror, as if their sense of safety in childhood had just been snuffed out in seconds. Thank you.
Think this shit happening again, man.
Then the influx of phone calls.
Oh, I got the shit really on. Tabs are closed. Oh shit. Come on, Dr. Payne. They're still out. I ain't gonna do all this because there's a lot, but I really wanna. Oh, they must be on. Keith Ellison, I see Keith. So they really just made this about. It wasn't even really about. Yeah, that's crazy. But I'm gonna get up out of here. Tomorrow I'm gonna do a whole lot more. I want to continue this. So with that being said, man, I hope y'all have a great Monday, and I will be back tomorrow. Same time, same